Welcome to the Money Mentors Podcast.
This Money Mentors podcast is about helping you with your retirement questions. So if you have a question for us, reach out online anytime at matsonfinancial.com. Well, if you've read up on Warren Buffett over the years, you probably know his two biggest rules of investing.
The first rule in investment is don't lose. And the second rule in investment is don't forget the first rule. And that's all the rules there are. I mean, if you buy things for far below what they're worth and you buy a group of them, you basically don't lose money.
Brilliant stuff there from Warren. But one author guy suggests that Buffett's biggest factor in his success may just be time. Morgan Housel wrote The Psychology of Money and studied Warren Buffett's habits, and she points out that Buffett actually made the majority of his wealth after 65. Now, he's about to turn 94 this summer. So how important is that time factor as we're looking at investing? And for our listeners, should the goal still be to make money even when they're retired?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Oracle of Omaha, my second favorite Buffett. So, I mean,
right behind Jimmy, right
behind Jimmy, always. But yeah, I mean, the concept of time when it comes to investing, and I shared this again with my son, not to have stories about my 17-year-old who sometimes have to drill into his head concepts, but that's the life of a parent. Yeah, I showed him the math on, okay, if you invest $2,000 each year from age 18 to 28, so 10 years, you put $2,000 away and you don't touch it until 65. And I'm trying to remember the exact number, but it came close to about 1.4 million with an average rate of return.
Wow.
So if the market just does what it's always done, $20,000 of his money would equal $1.4 million at age 65 just from time and not touching it. That's the compounding interest on that is just ridiculous. The minimal effort it takes, the earlier you do it, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously, if you wait longer, now you have to take more risk, which, could be good or bad. So time is always the first thing to take into consideration, whether it's time to retirement or time in retirement.
And then you get into like 401ks where you're getting a match and things like that. The additional free money, the earlier you start contributing to those as well, it's the same thing.
Right. And so if you're later on in life and you're working through your retirement plan and maybe, now you're 40 years old and you've got 20 years to retirement, either you're going to have to contribute more to make up for that time or, like I said, take more risk. But then it switches again. Just when you think you've got it under control, now you go into retirement. Okay, I've built this nest egg. Now what do I do? So you retire with $1 million. And I have this conversation all the time with the clients. I'm not trying in retirement to make your $1 million become $2 million when you're 80 or 90. That's not my goal. Mm-hmm. My goal at that point is create that income plan. And if you need $60,000 a year out of your nest egg, then that's what the return I'm trying to get. I'm trying to make what you take. Right? If I do better than that, you're not going to be mad at me.
Right.
But I don't want to put the client in a position where they're exposed to more losses than their risk capacity can handle, which then in turn would create a change in their income. So growth pre-retirement is a different conversation than growth in retirement. Pre-retirement, you're talking about the accumulation. How much can I make it turn into? Growth in retirement is about maintaining what you have.
And again, that goes back, Corey, to, knowing what your income needs look like, because again, that tells you how much your portfolio needs to be generating for you on an annual basis. And then I know you guys too talk to clients and families about what do they want to leave behind in the end. That also factors into that decision too, right?
Yeah. And part of that too is when we're talking about time before retirement, like Gerald said, you can kind of estimate how much time you have before retirement, but time after retirement, you don't know the day you're going to die. Even though the IRS has a life expectancy for you, it doesn't mean that's when you're going to live to. So when we're talking about, that estate plan, leaving money to your heirs and your income plan, like Gerald says, not all about getting to a certain point, but being able to maintain what you want for as long as you live.
Yeah. So again, a lot goes into that decision, but a lot of people, though, continue to build wealth and build a legacy, too, for their families, even when they are retired. We're going to tell you more in just a moment here about how you can get started on that type of plan with your money mentors at Matson Financial Services. But it was interesting, Gerald and Corey. I was talking to a gentleman recently who enjoys shows like this. He reads the Wall Street Journal and every other financial publication he can get his hands on. But he had a good question about retirement. Since he has multiple accounts, a 401k, an IRA, a Roth, a regular brokerage account, as well as checking and savings, of course, he wonders, where should he start to draw his income first in retirement? Which bucket does it go to? So where would you start in a situation like this?
I would start by getting to know the client.
Right?
Talk to me about what your income goal is, what sources of income you do have in retirement, like what's your Social Security? Do you have a pension? It's not just what types of accounts you have, but what are your sources of income too? And then that should equate to that lifestyle you want in retirement. Once we have those baseline numbers, then we can reverse engineer it, because now what I want to look at is how little taxes can we pay? I guess that's appropriate to say, Jennifer?
Right, yes. As little as possible, right?
Right. We all have to pay taxes. I just don't want to pay extra if I can avoid it. Now, for an example, if a client's income goal and they don't have a pension, they don't want to turn on their Social Security, maybe they have an income goal of $150,000. We can take $50,000 out of a Roth, $50,000 out of an IRA, and maybe $50,000 out of a savings or a money market in a brokerage account, and their total income that year is $150,000, but their taxable income is $50,000 in that scenario. So you get triple what your taxable income is. That's a good way to go. So utilizing the different buckets is going to give you the most flexibility around what your lifestyle in retirement looks like and how much of that Uncle Sam is a part of.
Yeah. Other than just making sure we're paying the least amount of taxes as possible. If I've got a client who's retiring at 55 and now has 10 years of marketplace insurance before they get on Medicare, and they have to keep their income below a certain amount to pay less for that insurance, we got to take all that into consideration as well, because if I can send you income from a place that doesn't necessarily count as income, you're going to pay a lot less for those medical premiums as well.
Yeah, we have to take a look at everything, right? That's an excellent point, Corey, that marketplace insurance, as your income goes up, the amount of subsidy you get is going to go down. So you, in turn, are paying more for that same health insurance. And, oh boy, if you tell them you're going to have this much and you come in at the end of the year and you had this much, all those subsidies you got to pay back.
And it doesn't feel like your income went up like you thought it did.
Right.
Want weekly lessons from your money mentors? Yes. Hit the subscribe button now and listen every weekend on Wood Radio.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. Fee-based financial planning and investment services are offered by Matson Financial Services, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance products and services offered through Lakeview Financial Group, LLC, Matson Financial Services, LLC, and Lakeview Financial Group are affiliated. To find out if Matson Financial Services is licensed in your state, please call 800-536-8907.